creative this on the fly. You call the play, get switched at the line, you know, on and on and on and on. This year is a whole different personnel set. It's going to be different. How big an adjustment is it for you to go back to kind of what you've known your whole football coaching career and go back to like traditional offense?
Yeah, I mean, I'll disagree with a little bit of what you said. I mean, I get I know I get what you're trying to say, but that's the plays you remember, the flashy ones. The majority of our offense was very put the ball in play, run the ball efficiently, throw an in cut, throw a replacement, and every now and again we'd do something like off color, but that's what everybody remembers. Like I would say that 95% of our offense was pretty routine. You know what I mean? 90 to whatever percent of it. It's just not what people remember. And anytime you do something like that's unbelievable, then it's like, oh, you do that all the time. Well, that's not necessarily true. There was a couple plays in some games that were like, you know, that really stood out. But the majority of stuff we did was very routine. And I would say that most of what we did was very routine. And so we're going to stay right down that track. I mean, our offense is very systematic. You know, we do what we do. We're going to obviously add some things in the off season that I deem fit what we do, that makes us better every year, because you got to constantly evolve. You got to figure out, you know, what can we do to build on the previous year of what our identity was. And so we're in a good place right now with, you know, with what I feel like is a good core identity offensively. I mean, we have a lot of returning guys up front, and they are, even last year, you know, they were the reason we were successful was because we could protect, we could run the ball efficiently, and do all the rest. So it's going to be no different this year.
Do you feel like this group has shown that they can execute the routine stuff from what you've seen in camp?
I mean, in practice, yeah, but I mean, that's completely different, you know, animal. You know, we got to see it done in games, and that's what I'm eager to see these guys play in games. I mean, they've shown a lot of good things in practice, you know, and so there's a lot of new faces out there, and I get, you know, that, you know, the experience here, you know, we got some guys that's played a lot of ball other places, but overall experience as our group is lacking in some positions. But what I see in practice is very, you know, very good. Now, again, you know, they got to do it in a game. And, you know, the first game is obviously the first game. There's other elements in the first game because the team we're playing is very good on defense. One of the better defensive units I've seen, very physical. Their D-line is as good as advertised. Their linebackers triggered. Their corners are very good cover guys. I mean, there's a very solid defense with very good, smart players, and they play extremely hard. And so, you know, we're going to have to execute against a very talented group.
Speaking of, like, how difficult is it to have the first game of the year be against, you know, these talented guys that they have in the secondary, especially when you're bringing in a mix of transfer guys who haven't played a ton? Just how difficult is it for everyone to kind of match up against them tough opponents like that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's their first game too, and so, you know, first games are first games, and there's going to be good plays. There's going to be plays we got to overcome. We gotta have a really good ball security night, because that's one thing that sticks out with them is they do a really good job of taking the ball away. They're very opportunistic, and when they take it away, and so we have to protect the ball, and we have to execute offensive football, play to play, which what we stress every day. And so I don't know if really that matters as much, because it is both teams' first game. I would anticipate Hard Rock being a Hard Rock that I've probably never seen, and I'm excited about that too, because I think that's going to be our helping hand, obviously, and so we're excited about that.
Obviously, with JoJo, I mean, he's a incredibly talented player, but I know he finished up last year. How has he kind of put this opportunity, how has he kind of handled the chance to have this kind of opportunity this year to really get a big chance to play after last night?
Yeah, look, he's waited his turn, he's worked hard. I mean, he earned everything he's gonna get. And so he's a very talented guy. I would say that, you know, unlike last year a little bit, I mean, I think that you're gonna see a lot of different people out there. I think we're gonna have the ability to rotate. I feel very comfortable in handful of guys to play. And so I do think that the identity of our offense will be a little bit different last year in the sense of like there will be more guys out there playing. Last year wasn't the case because we were so top heavy, but our depth right now is much better than it has been since I've been here. And so it's obviously all about trust, putting people on the field, and I do trust more guys to play right now than I have since I've been here. So I'm excited about that too.
Shannon, we all help a person with how long he's waiting to get back from his injury, not being sprained and finally in fall. As you guys get closer to the season opener, have you sensed any extra, whether it's an edge or fire in him as you get closer, or is he still the same person as you've seen since he got here?
I mean, there's no extra. I mean, look, I mean, he knows he's got a lot to prove, and so he's also proved a lot, if that makes sense. And I don't think a lot of that gets talked about, but I mean, he's played a lot of football. He's played in big games. That's nothing new for him. And so he's very even keeled and calm on a day-to-day basis. Now, is there a fire? You're damn right there's a fire. And that comes out, obviously, when me and him are having our talks or whatever. But we're gonna keep that where it is. And we do understand, and he understands, that this game is played over a period of time, and it is truly all about giving every play its lifespan. And I'm not expecting or asking him to be anything other than what he is. And so, and I did the same thing last year. I mean, we don't need Superman every play. We need efficient, good offensive football, good decision making, very accurate intermediate pass game. And look, you got 10 guys around you that are pretty good. Like, depend on those guys, right? Everybody depends on each other.
Shannon, just as a coordinator, what's your philosophy been even now over the years of this is my system, this is how I want to run the offense? When a quarterback comes in, they fit into your system, or how much do you adjust to what the quarterback does well? You've spoken about Carson. I didn't came to what
Yeah.
and has that changed over the years for you, your experience?
Yeah, it has. I mean, look, I do think that we have a pretty solid system of what we do. Now, does that stay the same year to year? No, it doesn't, because we do studies in the off season. We do have different players year to year too, and everybody has a certain comfort level of what they like to do. But I do believe in programming a quarterback mentally into our offense first. Like, that's what I do initially when I get a freshman quarterback or a transfer quarterback, because programming is the most important to me. Meaning that how a quarterback views every play. Meaning like this is my progression. I never get caught in a surprise. I know where to go with the football. So every play has a clear-cut plan of action, right? So that's initially what I do with everybody. Now, ultimately, once you get to know each other, there is conversations about like, hey man, like, I really like this, I don't like this as much, and so to say that I don't gravitate that way would be a lie, but every quarterback I've had is the same. Like, once you get them and they've earned that role, you want to do the things that they're very comfortable with. And that's no different week to week, so when you put a game plan together, I mean, you're starting off with a certain set of plays or a certain set of ideas. And then towards the end of the week, you have conversations with them, even on a weekly basis, about, hey, like, what do you not feel good about in this particular game plan? And there's typically 2 to 3 plays where they're like, man, what they do defensively, I think I might get stuck with the ball on this play, or I don't have a clear-cut plan about a certain, look they give on this play. So we'll just throw those plays out, So in a way, I'm telling you the big picture, but it also is a week-to-week picture too. Does that make sense? Like, we have those conversations as the week goes, and it's like, man, I just, I feel real good about this, but I don't feel certain about that. Well, then heck, man, we throw that out and we roll, because ultimately they're the ones out there playing, not me. And so I have to, their comfort level is the most important.
As a new defensive coordinator, he hasn't been at DC in 5 years or so. What type of challenge does that pose to you? And do you go back and watch that?
We have. I mean, we've watched all the film that he's been a part of, and so, and ultimately, I will tell you that I really don't know. I mean, there's going to be a part of this game that at the beginning specifically that we're gonna have to figure out exactly what their mentality is on defense. I mean, the head coach, obviously, Marcus is a defensive guy, so I think that like he will obviously have some input on keeping, like they were really good on defense last year, so they're probably not gonna, deviate very far away from what they're doing. They're really good at it, and typically good defenses stay the course on things like that. But to think that there's not gonna be wrinkles that he likes is probably crazy to think of. So there's gonna be things that he does that we're just not gonna try to figure out through the course of the first 2 or 3 or 4 drives. And there's always gonna be some surprises in the first game. They've had an off season too, and so I anticipate some third down stuff or some off schedule stuff that'll be a little bit different. So we'll have to adjust to it. No different than really every game, but this one's a little different because it's a new DC, and he hasn't been a DC in a little bit, so it's like trying to figure out what his identity is probably not gonna know until.
Can we expect to see Malachi Tony inside and outside in the slot this week?
Dude, I didn't hear what you said.
Can we expect to see Malachi Tony both outside and in the slot this week?
I would expect to see people lined up in a lot of different places.
And the other true freshmen?
Which one?
Are there any other true freshmen we expect to play?
Yeah. I mean, I would anticipate a lot of people playing.
You've had success in these premier early season games. So last year against Florida, game 1, right? Then game 2, I understand, was Texas A&M. You've had a lot of offensive success in those games. Different personnel, different defenses and teams you're facing. Are there common traits that you think led to those successes? Is it clicking that quickly is actually difficult?
I mean, I think you gotta do what you do good. I think people overthink things the first game because you have a lot of time. And look, we've known who we're playing the game 1 for a long time, all summer and all camp. And so you can fall into the trap of like chasing a lot of ghosts when you have a lot of time. And so ultimately I've done it long enough to know that like things that we've been doing good in camp, regardless of the defense that we're playing, then that's the stuff I'm gonna do. Because that's what our kids have executed, that's what our guys feel comfortable with, and ultimately, regardless of the defense we're playing, I'm gonna do those things that we're doing good in camp. And I think that has a lot to do with early season success, is I really don't try to chase like a lot of things that the other team's doing. I focus a lot more on us and what we've been doing well through camp, and typically that's what makes it on the play call sheet. It's those plays we've been repping really for a month,
So you do have a lot of young guys that are gonna be out there, and it's an old cliche, it's when the lights go on, how are they gonna perform when the lights go on? It's different than Green Tree, obviously. What does that mean in your scheme, your offense?
That's a question mark every time you play new players. It is what it is. Now, I do think that we preach about, look, a football play is a football play. And so it doesn't matter if there's 70,000 people, 80,000 people, or nobody. So if you can take it down to the least common denominator of like, hey, what's my job? Now ultimately there's emotions that go into games, there's all kind of stuff, right? Trying to block those emotions out and stay focused on your job is the most important thing. And I think it goes back to what I was telling him. That's why a lot of times in those situations, if you go back to things that you have a lot of bank reps at doing, then typically when they go out in those situations and they have a lot of bank reps of doing it, then it'll show up on game day because they've done it so much, they just revert back to their training, they revert back to, hey, I've ran this a lot of times, I know the looks, I know the adjustments, and I'm just gonna run and execute the play. And so those are the kind of things I think about when you're playing new players, is like, hey, do things that they've done well, and do things that they've done well a lot. So when the game is new at the beginning of the game, you have a better chance of executing. As the game settles in, obviously the emotions of the game kind of dissipate a little bit, and then it becomes about football. At some point in the game, in every game, it becomes about football.
Shannon, how's the running?
Question.
Just how's the running game look to you in fall camp?
It looks great. I mean, we have, you know, you could really close your eyes and pick out of the group of running backs, and I feel very comfortable with those guys. It's going to be running back by committee again, which I love because that position, and I've said this for a long time, that position takes a lot of abuse, and it's good to have a lot of guys at that position that can play and that you trust to play, which is ultimately the most important. You got to trust them to play, and I trust a lot of guys at that position to play, and they understand protection, they understand the physicality of the position. They all have the ability to run within our scheme at a high level. And so I'm excited about that group. I mean, the up front and the running back room are two rooms we're gonna lean on heavily. And so, you know, you gotta play to your strengths.
The last time we talked, you made sure to give the offensive line room some love. With Francis specifically, seeing how he's progressed through his 3 years, just where's been the biggest growth specifically leadership front? How is he sort of taking grasp of that as he's gotten older and become more experienced?
I do see him being more vocal. I think that's probably the biggest deal. I mean, as a player, he's been pretty steady since he's been here, to be quite honest with you. I mean, he's a big, physical, strong guy that, you know, I mean, obviously everybody keeps getting better, but ultimately I do see him being more vocal, which we need him to be more vocal. And so, and he does a really good job of that. And really, you know, up front, you know, you have a handful of guys, honestly, that are very vocal, which is a good place to be.
With Keelan Marion, obviously he's gotten his flowers for his performance on special teams. How do you view him, you know, in offense, like at receiver? Like, where do you see him, you know, outside, inside? What do you think his strengths are at receiver?
Well, the good thing about the way we've done things over the past couple of years is we move a lot of people around. So, I mean, years ago you could sit there and say that like a receiver was truly an outside receiver and that's all he did. You really can't say that much anymore because there are so many formation adjustments that we have. We move those guys around a good bit. I do think he has a unique ability to blow the top off the cut. I mean, he has true like game breaker speed, and so, but he also, you know, a lot of times with guys like that, they struggle with like intermediate routes, and he doesn't. Like, he has the ability to run the whole route tree, which, you know, doesn't limit him, which is a good thing. You know, he can be out there in any situation, in any play call. And so he's really had a really good camp. I'm excited to watch him play.
Awesome. One up there. Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it, guys.